Welcome to our YouTube channel, The Alien Tales, and please ensure that you have subscribed.
From her view, he's the chosen one. From his view, she's using him. From Earth's view, they're both extinct. Three perspectives on the same cosmic love affair. The truth depends on which reality you're standing in. From her view, Seraphina watched the mundane human fumble with his coffee order, completely oblivious to the cosmic storm brewing around his mortal frame. The barista scanner couldn't read his ID chip because it didn't exist in this timeline. How deliciously perfect. Double shot macchiato, extra foam? Dex mumbled, patting his pockets for credits that had been obsolete for 30 years in her reality. She approached with practiced grace, her bioengineered appearance calibrated to appeal to his primitive aesthetic preferences. "Allow me," she purred, sliding her quantum card across the reader. The machine hummed with recognition of currency from a civilization he'd never heard of. "Thanks, I'll pay you back," he said, those wonderfully naive brown eyes meeting hers. Poor sweet thing had no idea he was the last genetically pure human in 17 galaxies, the key to reversing the great extinction event of 2157. From his view, great. Another gorgeous woman rescuing him from his perpetual brokenness. Dex had seen this movie before. Mysterious benefactor, too good to be true timing, and that particular smile that said, "I want something expensive from you." The redhead was stunning in that artificial way that screamed high-maintenance trouble. Her clothes looked like they cost more than his rent, and she moved with the predatory grace of someone accustomed to getting exactly what she wanted. "I'm Seraphina," she said, extending a hand that felt oddly cool despite the coffee shop's warmth. "Dex." He shook it, noting calluses in weird places. "Personal trainer? Surgeon? Professional strangler? Fascinating name," she murmured, and he swore her pupils dilated like a cat's. "Yeah, definitely trouble." From Earth's view, temporal displacement detected. Subjects 2. Status extinct. Timeline delta 7. Probability of paradox 97.3%. Recommendation: ignore. The coffee shop existed in a pocket of collapsed spacetime, serving beverages to ghosts. From her view, "I have a proposition," Seraphina said, sliding into the booth across from him. The way his eyebrows shot up was adorable. Humans were so expressive with their facial muscles. She'd spent 3 cycles studying his psychological profile. Dex Hartwell, underemployed graphic designer, chronic skeptic, abandonment issues from a father who left when he was 12. Perfect for her needs. "I need someone with your particular skill set for a project. It involves travel, excellent compensation, and the chance to save." She caught herself before saying the universe. "Save a lot of people." His coffee cup paused halfway to his lips. "Lady, I design logos for small businesses. My most impressive achievement this month was making a dog groomer's business card that doesn't look like it was made in 1997. The self-deprecation was charming, but she could see the spark of curiosity in his eyes. His DNA sang with potential. The genetic markers were all there, dormant but perfect. "Trust me," she said, leaning forward to let her pheromone enhancers work their magic. "You're more special than you know." From his view, red flag number 12. Mysterious job offers from women who looked like they'd stepped out of a cologne commercial. Dex had enough experience with get-rich-quick schemes to know this was probably either a pyramid scheme or something involving his kidneys. "What kind of travel?" he asked, because his curiosity had always been stronger than his self-preservation instincts. "Space travel." He nearly choked on his macchiato. "I'm sorry, what? I know how it sounds. But space travel? Like astronaut space travel? Because lady, I get carsick on the highway." Her laugh was musical and slightly unsettling. "Not that kind of space travel. More like interdimensional space travel." Dex set down his cup and studied her face. She wasn't joking. Her eyes held the sort of earnest intensity usually reserved for cult recruiters and people selling essential oils. "Right," he said slowly. "And I'm qualified for this because you're the chosen one. Oh, for fuck's sake." From Earth's view, temporal anchor point established. Subjects entering critical decision matrix. Universal constants deteriorating. Coffee temperature optimal. From her view, Seraphina sighed at his skepticism. Humans always required demonstrations. She glanced around the coffee shop, mostly empty except for a barista scrolling through social media and an elderly man reading a newspaper. "Watch carefully," she whispered, extending her hand toward the newspaper. The paper began folding itself into an elaborate origami crane while the man continued reading, completely unaware. The crane fluttered off the table and performed a graceful loop around the ceiling before landing on their table. Dex's mouth fell open. "How did you?" "Localized reality manipulation," she said casually, though it had taken considerable energy. "Child's play where I come from." His eyes darted between her and the crane, which was now pecking at sugar packets. "You're from where exactly?" "Originally, Valtoria Prime in what you'd call the Andromeda Galaxy. Currently operating out of a pocket dimension roughly 17 inches to the left of your reality." The crane exploded into confetti that spelled out, "Believe," in midair before vanishing. "This is insane," he muttered, but she could see the wonder creeping into his expression. From his view, okay, so either this woman had access to technology that made NASA look like a middle school science fair, or Dex was having the mother of all psychotic breaks. The origami thing could have been a trick, some kind of hidden motors or magnets, but the confetti spelling thing? That was either the most elaborate prank in human history or he was sitting across from someone who operated by completely different rules than the rest of reality. "Assuming I believe you," he said carefully. "Why me? I'm nobody special. I failed high school physics twice." "That's exactly why you're perfect," she said, which was somehow both insulting and encouraging. "You don't have preconceived notions about what's impossible." "I have plenty of preconceived notions. Like the notion that beautiful women don't randomly approach guys like me with offers to save the universe." Her smile faltered for just a microsecond. "Who said anything about the universe?" "From Earth's view, reality breach. Level 2. Civilian exposure. Contained. Causality stress. Increasing. Barista awareness. Minimal." From her view, "Come with me," Seraphina said, standing abruptly. She'd pushed too hard with the demonstration, and now temporal monitors would be converging on their location within minutes. Dex hesitated, still staring at the spot where the confetti had vanished. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere private. Away from prying eyes." She grabbed his hand, noting how his pulse quickened at the contact. The genetic compatibility was even stronger than her instruments had indicated. Behind the coffee shop was an alley that existed in 17 different dimensions simultaneously, a perfect transit point. She pressed her palm against what appeared to be a blank brick wall, and it shimmered like water. "Step through," she commanded. "Through the wall? Are you insane? Trust me." She squeezed his hand. "On the other side is proof that everything I've told you is true." His grip tightened on hers. For a moment, she saw past the skepticism to the scared, lonely person underneath. He wanted to believe in something bigger than his small life. "If this kills me," he said, "I'm haunting you forever." Together, they stepped through the portal. From his view, the sensation was like diving into a pool of warm television static. Every nerve in Dex's body tingled as reality folded around them like origami. Then they were standing in what looked like a high-tech command center crossed with a botanical garden. Holographic displays showed star maps he didn't recognize, while bioluminescent plants provided ambient lighting that made everything feel dreamlike. "Welcome to my ship," Seraphina said, watching his reaction carefully. "Your ship is inside a wall? Technically, your wall is inside my ship. It's complicated." Dex turned in a slow circle, taking in the impossible architecture. The ceiling curved away into infinity, and he was pretty sure some of the plants were watching him. "This is real," he said, more to himself than to her. "Very real. And very hidden from your government's detection systems." A new voice echoed through the space. "Sarah, darling, you didn't tell me you were bringing home strays. From Earth's view, subjects have departed primary timeline. Tracking signal lost. Dimensional variance extreme. Coffee shop status still serving overpriced beverages." From her view, "Ignore Xandrith," Seraphina said quickly as a figure materialized from the shadows. Literally materialized, like stepping out of a photograph. "He's from the umbral dimension." They're naturally dramatic. Xandrith looked like a goth teenager's fever dream. Pale skin, silver hair, and eyes that were entirely too knowing. He wore a flowing coat that seemed to be cut from liquid starlight. The famous Dex Hartwell, Xandrith purred, circling him like a predator. The man with the golden genes. Tell me, do you feel chosen yet? Xandrith, Seraphina warned. But there was affection in her voice that made Dex's stomach tighten with unexpected jealousy. What golden genes? Dex asked, looking between them. Oh, hasn't she told you? Xandrith's grin was all teeth. You're the last genetically unmodified human in existence. Your DNA is the key to reversing the great die-off of 2157. Quite the catch our Sarah has made. The words hit Dex like a physical blow. The what of what now? Seraphina shot Xandrith a look that could have melted titanium. I was building up to that. Last unmodified human? Dex's voice cracked. What happened to everyone else? From his view, the bottom dropped out of Dex's world again. First interdimensional travel, now genetic extinction. He was starting to think his Tuesday was getting a bit too exciting. Everyone else died? He asked, his voice smaller than he intended. Not died, exactly, Seraphina said, shooting another warning glance at the dramatic pale guy. Modified, enhanced, changed into something that couldn't reproduce naturally anymore. But I can. You can, Xandrith confirmed cheerfully. Congratulations. You're humanity's last hope for sexual reproduction. Dex sat down heavily on what he hoped was a chair and not some kind of alien pet. So you need me to… what? Repopulate the species. Eventually, Seraphina said. But first, we need to stop the event that caused the modification plague in the first place. Time travel, Dex said flatly. Time travel, she confirmed. Of course. Because regular space travel wasn't complicated enough. Xandrith laughed, a sound like silver bells in a thunderstorm. I like him. Can we keep him? From Earth's view, Subject Dex. Existential crisis detected. Subject Seraphina. Emotional attachment increasing. Subject Xandrith. Being Xandrith. Universal outcome. Still uncertain. From her view, Seraphina activated the holographic display, showing Earth as it appeared in her timeline. A blue-gray marble covered in crystalline cities and floating gardens. Beautiful but sterile. This is your world in 2157, she explained. The Helix Corporation released what they called genetic optimization into the atmosphere. Everyone who breathed it was improved, stronger, smarter, more disease-resistant. Sounds good so far, Dex said warily. It was. Until people realized they could no longer reproduce. The modifications made human genetic material incompatible with itself. She zoomed in on empty playgrounds, silent schools. Within 50 years, birth rates dropped to 0. Xandrith materialized beside them, munching on what looked like crystallized starlight. That's where you come in, golden boy. Your untainted DNA is the template for the cure. But we can't just synthesize it, Seraphina continued. We need you to travel back to 2024 and prevent the Helix Corporation from releasing the modification compound. Dex rubbed his temples. Let me get this straight. You want me to time travel back to… now. To stop something that hasn't happened yet but already happened in your timeline. Temporal mechanics are tricky, Xandrith agreed. From his view, why me though? Dex asked. If you can time travel, why not send someone competent? Someone who knows what they're doing. Seraphina and Xandrith exchanged a look that suggested this was a conversation they'd had before. Temporal displacement creates paradoxes, Seraphina said carefully. People from our timeline can't exist in yours for long without causing reality fractures. But you're already from that time period. Plus, Xandrith added with his unsettling grin, you're genetically invisible to Helix Corporation scanners. They're looking for modified humans. You don't even register as a threat. Because I'm completely ordinary. Because you're completely perfect? Seraphina corrected, and something in her voice made his heart skip. Dex stood up and walked to what he assumed was a window, looking out at swirling cosmic nonsense that his brain refused to process. And if I say no, then humanity becomes extinct, and the universe loses something irreplaceable, Seraphina said quietly. No pressure, Xandrith chirped. Great. Just great. From Earth's view, decision point approaching, probability matrices converging, subject Dex, stress levels critical, coffee intake, insufficient for current situation. From her view, Seraphina found Dex in the observation deck 3 hours later, staring out at the quantum storm that separated dimensions. He looked so small against the infinite backdrop, so beautifully, tragically human. Having second thoughts? She asked, settling beside him. Having first thoughts, actually. I don't usually think this hard about life-altering decisions. Usually, I just panic and eat ice cream. She laughed despite herself. Ice cream helps with existential crises? It helps with everything. Don't you have ice cream in the future? We have nutritionally optimized frozen dessert substitute. That's the saddest thing you've told me yet. And you told me about human extinction. They sat in comfortable silence, watching colors that had no names paint impossible patterns across the void. Seraphina found herself studying his profile, the way his hair stuck up in the back. The small scar on his chin from what he'd told her was a childhood accident involving a bicycle and questionable decision-making. Why do you really need me? He asked suddenly. Because you're the key to everything, she thought. Because your genetic code is literally priceless. Because without you, trillions of beings will never exist. Because, she said instead, leaning over to kiss him softly, some things are worth saving. From his view, the kiss was electric, literally. Dex felt small sparks dance across his lips, and for a moment he could swear he tasted starlight. When Seraphina pulled away, her eyes were glowing with soft blue light. Whoa, he breathed. Sorry. Emotional states affect my bioluminescence. That's actually really cool. He reached up to touch her cheek, and her skin pulsed with gentle warmth. Are you even human? I was originally, before the modifications. Her expression grew distant. I volunteered for the enhancement program. I thought I was helping humanity evolve. But instead, you killed it. Instead, we killed it. The light in her eyes dimmed. I've spent 200 years trying to fix that mistake. Dex processed this. Beautiful, mysterious, probably using him for his genetic material. Seraphina was also ancient, guilt-ridden, and carrying the weight of species-wide genocide. Somehow, this made him like her more. 200 years is a long time to be alone, he said. I haven't been alone. I have Xandrith and the mission but have you been happy? She stared at him as if he'd asked a question in a language she didn't recognize. From Earth's view, emotional attachment. Confirmed. Mission parameters. Compromised. Romantic subplot. Engaging. Universal fate. Increasingly dependent on feelings. From her view, the alarm klaxons shattered the tender moment like glass. Red light bathed the observation deck as Xandritha's voice echoed through the ship's communication system. Sera, we have a problem. The Helix Corporation found us. Seraphina was on her feet instantly, her enhanced reflexes kicking in. Through the viewport, sleek black ships materialized from hyperspace, their hulls bristling with weapons that could unmake matter at the molecular level. How? She demanded, speaking to the air. Her ship's AI would route the communication. Someone leaked our location, Xandrith replied grimly. Someone with access to our dimensional coordinates. Dex looked confused. Who else knows we're here? Seraphina's enhanced mind processed the possibilities in nanoseconds. Only 3 beings knew their exact location. Herself, Xandrith, and the Council, she whispered, her blood turning to ice. They sold us out. The Council? Dex asked. The Temporal Regulation Council. They're supposed to oversee time travel to prevent paradoxes. Her hands flew over the ship's controls, initiating emergency protocols. But if they're working with Helix, then they want the timeline to remain unchanged, Xandrith finished, materializing beside them. They want humanity to stay extinct. From his view, wait, Dex said, holding up his hands as the ship shuddered under weapons fire. You're saying the time police are corrupt and want to keep everyone dead? Not dead, Seraphina corrected, her fingers dancing over holographic controls that responded to her touch like living things. Modified, the enhanced humans are easier to control. No messy genetic diversity, No unpredictable mutations. And I'm unpredictable? You're chaos incarnate, Xandrith said cheerfully, even as explosions rocked the ship. Genetically speaking, your DNA doesn't follow any of the standard patterns. It's beautifully random. The ship lurched violently, and Dex grabbed onto what he hoped was a support beam. So they want to kill me? They want to capture you, Seraphina said grimly. Use your genetic material to create a controlled breeding program. Keep just enough genetic diversity to prevent complete sterility, but not enough to threaten their power structure. That's... Dex searched for words. Horrifying, Xandrith suggested. I was going to say typical, actually. Even in the future, it's all about control. Another massive impact sent them sprawling. Through the viewport, the Helix ships were closing in. From Earth's view, hostile forces engaged. Subject survival probability, 23.7%. Timeline integrity, compromised. Dramatic tension, maximum. From her view, we need to get to the escape pods, Seraphina shouted over the sounds of her ship tearing itself apart. The Helix weapons were designed to disable rather than destroy. They wanted Dex alive. She grabbed his hand, her enhanced strength easily pulling him along as they ran through corridors that were rapidly reconfiguring themselves. Her ship's emergency protocols were designed to confuse borders, but it also made navigation a nightmare. Where's Xandrith? Dex yelled, buying us time. A massive explosion shook the ship, and she added, I hope. They reached the pod bay just as the main hull breach alarms began sounding. Seraphina pushed Dex toward the nearest escape pod, a sleek silver egg designed for interdimensional travel. Get in. What about you? I'm right behind you. She was lying. The pod was designed for one person, and someone needed to manually launch it from the outside. Dex seemed to realize this at the same moment. No. We go together or not at all. Don't be ridiculous. I said no. His voice carried an authority she'd never heard before. We're partners in this, remember? Partners don't abandon each other. Through the bay's viewports, she could see Helix boarding shuttles approaching. In seconds, they'd be overrun. From his view, Dex had never been the heroic type. He was more of a hide under the bed and wait for the scary thing to go away type. But looking at Seraphina, brave, brilliant, beautiful Seraphina who'd spent 2 centuries trying to fix a mistake that wasn't entirely her fault, he felt something shift inside him. There has to be another way, he said, looking around the pod bay desperately. The maintenance tunnel, Seraphina said suddenly. It leads to the secondary pod bay, but it's barely wide enough for one person. Then we go single file. Dex, you don't understand. The tunnel goes through the ship's quantum core. The radiation will kill you within minutes. But not you. My enhancements make me resistant to quantum poisoning. He looked at her for a long moment, understanding dawning. You want me to go first, don't you? Get to safety while you hold them off. It's the logical choice. Screw logic. He pulled her toward the tunnel entrance. If this kills me, at least I'll die knowing someone gave a damn about saving the world. The Helix soldiers had almost reached the bay doors. From Earth's view, escape attempt initiated. Quantum exposure levels. Lethal. Probability of success, 15.2%. Romantic gesture coefficient, maximum. From her view, the quantum tunnel was a nightmare of twisted metal and crackling energy. Seraphina felt the familiar burn of radiation against her enhanced skin, but for Dex, unmodified, vulnerable Dex, it had to be agony. Keep moving, she urged, supporting his weight as he stumbled. Can't see, he gasped, blood trickling from his nose. They were so close to the secondary bay. Just a few more meters. She could carry him if necessary, but the tunnel was too narrow. Behind them, she could hear the Helix soldiers cutting through the bay doors. Sarah, Dex whispered, his voice barely audible over the energy discharge. I need to tell you something. Save your strength. No, listen. In the coffee shop, I knew. She stopped moving. You knew what? I knew you weren't human. The way you moved, the way you talked about things. I've been designing book covers for science fiction novels for 3 years. I know the tropes. He managed a weak smile. Beautiful alien seduces ordinary human to save the galaxy. Her hearts, both of them, stopped beating for a moment. Then why did you come with me? Because he said, blood now flowing freely from his ears. Maybe the ordinary human gets to be the hero for once. Maybe he gets to save the beautiful alien instead of the other way around. The tunnel exit was just ahead. Through it, she could see the escape pod waiting. Besides, Dex added, I figured if you were going to use me, at least you were polite about it. From his view, Dex could feel his body shutting down, cell by cell. The quantum radiation was literally unraveling his DNA. Ironic, considering his DNA was supposedly the most important substance in the universe. But he'd meant what he said. He'd known from the moment Seraphina walked into that coffee shop that she was too good to be true. No one that perfect paid attention to guys like him unless they wanted something. The thing was, he didn't care anymore. Sarah, he whispered as she pulled him into the secondary pod bay. The mission. Forget the mission. You can't. Too important. His vision was fading, but he could see tears streaming down her face. Actual tears, glowing with bioluminescence. Use my DNA. Clone me if you have to, but save them. I can't do this without you. You can. You're stronger than you think. He managed to squeeze her hand. Besides, someone has to make sure they have decent ice cream in the future. She laughed through her tears, and the sound was the most beautiful thing he'd ever heard. The escape pod doors were closing. In the distance, he could hear Helix soldiers approaching. Go, he whispered. Together, she said firmly, pulling him into the pod. As the pod launched into the quantum storm between dimensions, Dex's last coherent thought was that maybe, just maybe, he'd finally found something worth being chosen for. From Earth's view, subjects departed. Destination unknown. Timeline status uncertain. Mission outcome pending. Final assessment. Love conquers physics. Addendum. Coffee shop still serves excellent macchiatos. In 17 different timelines, the pod crashes. In 3, it arrives safely. In one particularly interesting reality, Dex and Seraphina become interdimensional coffee shop owners who serve beverages to time travelers and refugees from extinct civilizations. The truth, as promised, depends entirely on which reality you're standing in. But in every timeline, the coffee is excellent.